just give you a warning. You might want to be close to the Kleenexes or tissues. So if you need to get them, feel free to walk up. I think there's some in the back. I'm not crying. My eyes are sweating. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that right now. But God's really laid it on my heart to speak today about being a dad rocks. God is calling every dad to be a rock anchored in Christ and steady for the family. For those that don't know me, I'm Ryan Welch. My wife Jennifer Welch is the outreach director. I've got three beautiful kids. Chloe, who's not here, she's at camp. And Jonathan. We'll make you stand up. No, I'm just kidding. And Haven. And she's the pistol. So she keeps me on my toes. But just a real quick backstory. Jen and I got married in 2006. And we did like most couples should. Enjoyed our time together, got to know one another, started a life together. We wanted more. We wanted a kid. And so we started trying. 2010, we found out that we were going to be pregnant with Chloe. And it was great. Had all the joys of parenthood coming up. And we were excited. Jen started having some complications, and she was in and out of the hospital probably about 12 to 14 weeks dealing with aplastic anemia. Doctors being doctors, they told us that we should abort the pregnancy. I should save my wife and not worry about the child, that we can always have more kids. That's what they told us. That wasn't God's plan for our life. We stuck it out. We had Chloe. Now she's a beautiful 14-year-old. So they told us after we had her that we shouldn't have any more kids, that it's too high of a risk. So Jen and I, we started praying. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to lose my wife or the mother of my kid. So it was going to be a tough sell for me. And we prayed about it. I'm not sure of the timing. About the same time, Miss York, she was praying over me. And she had a word for me. And she told me, she said, son, it's going to be okay. That God saw you through the first one. He's going to see you through this one. Don't worry. Don't believe the lies of the devil or the doubts in your head. So our second child, Jonathan, we had him. We thought our life was complete. But you know, God has different plans for us. 2020, we found out we were pregnant. I'm pretty sure it was Father's Day that year that Jen's like, hey, guess what? And I was super depressed. I mean, we went on vacations, didn't have to worry about the kids. They could swim by themselves, entertain themselves. Didn't have to worry about any of that stuff that you do. Didn't have to pull the Brandon where they got to go tote their toys down to the beach. They were big enough to carry their own. So it was going to be a big change for us. I had to come to realize, you know, it's God's plan. It's not mine. And we had Haven. So she was born in 2021. So 2 years ago, Father's Day, June 18th, 2023, it was an emotional roller coaster for me. It started out a normal day. We get up, we come to church, we serve where we're supposed to serve. We took our Father's Day photos in front of the Father's Day booth. And life being life, it was busy. Jen had to run Chloe out to Camp Day Spring. I took the two other kids. Took Jonathan with me, Haven with me. We went home, got Haven down for a nap. I wanted to take a nap. I jumped in my recliner, propped my feet up, watched some TV, and tried to doze off. Jonathan comes in and says, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "What, son?" And he's like, "Play Minecraft with me." I'm like, "Man, I just want to rest, bud." He's like, "Fine," walks away. And that's about it's one of the things that God's really, or not God, but I guilted myself, and God had to work on it with me. That I told my son no and didn't want to give him any attention. So we're sitting around, we're waiting. Jen gets home, it's 4 o'clock. We figured we'd go eat dinner early. We go to the Mexican restaurant that we always go to. She hates Mexican. I can eat it every day. It doesn't bother me. I'll find something on the menu. And so we go, try to make it up to Jonathan. I was like, "Well, let's go to Duck Donuts. We'll get you a donut that you like." So we go in, we order. Well, I don't know if you've ever been in there, they make it fresh. So they're putting them in, pulling them out, and making them to order. They're great. So we're sitting there waiting, and we go over this high-top table. I'm just standing there, and Jonathan's trying to climb up in the seat. And I kind of like glance over, and next thing I look over, and he's laying in the floor. I'm like, "Dude, get up out of the floor." I was like, "It is dirty." And if you know me, I'm a germaphobe. I will not crawl around on the floor. I will shake your hand and probably find some hand sanitizer or something right afterwards. Nothing against you. I just hate germs, okay? I will hug your neck. I will give you a handshake, but I'm going to go find me some hand sanitizer. So he's on the floor, and I'm telling him, I'm like, "Son, get up. Quit playing around." He looks up, "Dad, I can't." I'm like, "What do you mean you can't?" I was like, "Get up." And I tried, and he was just kind of limp. Well, then he starts having this seizure. So I look around, there's really nobody in there, and I get down on the ground. I'm holding his head, and I'm calling 911. I called for help. Nobody came over, none of the workers, nothing. So I felt alone. It seemed like eternity went by. I don't know if any of you have ever watched SpongeBob with your kids. One eternity later. That's what I felt like. So I'm sitting there. They're on the phone with me. Fire department's on their way. They get there first. He finally stops having his seizure. He looks at me, "Dad, let me up." I'm like, "No, son." I was like, "Just lay here. Let's find out what's going on with you." I hear the fire department come. Guy behind the counter finally comes over. He must have been like calling my number out or something because I didn't hear it. He come over. He's like, "Hey, is there anything I can do for you?" I was like, "Yeah. See that white Dodge truck out there? Please go out and tell my wife that we're inside. This has happened, but we're all right. Nothing like major's happening," to what I thought. But during the whole time, I didn't see it, but there was a family in there, and they were praying for us. And they told me on my way out, after the paramedics checked him out and said, "Hey, y'all can go home, but you probably want to take him to the emergency room just to have him checked out." And on the way out, they said, "Hey, we didn't know what to do, but we were praying for you guys." So I knew God was there. I might not have felt it at the time or seen it, but I felt helpless in that situation. So we went home. We dropped Haven off with my parents. We made our way to the ER and down at Cone. They took him straight back to a room. I didn't even have time to find a parking spot and get in there with them before they took him back. But when I got in there, he started having more seizures. And so I just remember I just went over to his bed and I was just holding my hand on his leg. And I would pray and ask God that he just stopped whatever it was. And I'd take my hand away, and Jonathan's like, Dad, don't take your hand away. And a lot of times that's like us with God. We want him to be on us all the time. And really the fact is he's always there. We might not feel it, but he's there. They finally gave him some medication. They got his seizures under control. And we were sitting around waiting. Pastor Mike had shown up and was sitting in the room with us. That's when the doctor came in. And he gave us the news that Jonathan had a tumor and that we needed to probably see a specialist. They said we could either keep treating him here at Moses Cone, or you guys can take him to Brenner's, or you could take him to Duke. And I'm pretty sure me and Jen, we said, look, we want to take him to Duke. So we're trying to get him set up to where he could be transported down there. And the nurses and doctors that are in the ER, they're like, look, you can't ride in the back. Y'all have to just follow behind the ambulance. We're like, look, that's not going to happen. I was like, he's my 8-year-old boy. I was like, one of us is going to ride with him. I don't care what you got to do. If I got to put him in my truck and take him down there. Well, one of the drivers and paramedic, they heard us talking. They came over and they said, look, don't worry about it. She can ride in the back with us. You can follow. So that's what we did. God was there again, working his provisions out for us. So me and Mike's walking out, and I'm going to get my truck, and Mike told me, he said, Ryan, you need to pray out loud. And I thought about it. It's like, okay. So I got my truck. I drove 45 minutes by myself. Just me and God. I prayed the whole time. Probably had some worship music going in the background. But by the time I got there and pulled up, I had this peace over the whole situation that I can't explain. But God was there. So I get out of the truck after I find a parking spot, because that place is huge. Stephanie, you know. It's huge. But somehow, out of the massive hospital, I'm walking up and my dad's standing there at the emergency room entrance. And a relief comes over me. Because dads are special. Whenever you got a problem, you go to your dad. So me and him, we sat in the ER room waiting for them to call us back. And then finally, they got Jonathan, I think, a room. So we went back with him. They took him back for an MRI. They asked him, they said, hey, who do you want to go with you? He's like, my mom. So I had to go back there with him, and it was 2 hours long scan. And sat there by myself in a room, nobody there at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. All I had to do was just pray. So that's what I did for 2 hours. And I thought back through my life about things that God had done for me, things that I've heard, things that I've seen. And really what came to remembrance was the message that Brian spoke when Braden was smaller, how they had to have open heart surgery for him, and that him and Allison, they just started fasting and praying. I was like, God, I won't eat anything else until this is taken care of. So I didn't. But really, what was really bothering me is I was worried about his salvation. I didn't know if Jonathan was saved. I've never really talked to him much about the Bible. I tried to live it in front of him and be an example. I'd tell him to read his Bible. I'd tell him a lot of things, but I never showed him. So that Monday, I was struggling. Maybe not on the outside, but on the inside. And God really reminded me, He said, look, I love you. I love Jonathan. Just as much as you love Jonathan, I love him. He's mine. Because he reminded me that before his first birthday, we had him dedicated here. Jen and I came up. We sat here in front of Mike, and we said, look, he's our child, but we're giving him to God. He's his. He's not mine anymore. I'm just the one that's going to raise him and point him in the right direction. So I was struggling with that. But we had met Dr. Matt, probably one of the top brain surgeons in the nation. After the MRI, he looked at it and said, look, we think we can go in, remove the majority of it. And so me and Jim were like, all right, let's do it, you know. When do y'all think you can do it? And they're like, Tuesday. So Monday we're just sitting around. We're trying to keep his spirits up, trying not to have him worry about what's going to happen. And we had friends show up, really church family. I wouldn't really call them friends, they're family. But they showed up. They brought games. They brought food and snacks for Jonathan to play. I mean, the guy had seizures for probably, 3 hours in the waiting room or ER room? But somehow he's hooked up to IVs, but somehow he had the energy to play this little Connect 4 game that Miss Tennille had brought to him. And I mean, he's battling like nurses and everything, beating them. I mean, he's playing around. It's like there's nothing wrong with him. But Tuesday rolled around, and that morning they took him back, and I was still struggling. I was like, God, Lord, I just need to know. I need to know, is he saved? Where does he stand with you? So I didn't want to upset him. I didn't want him to think that, I'm going to go back for surgery and I could die. I didn't know how to approach an 8-year-old without outcome. Because my biggest fear is that my kids would grow up not knowing Jesus as their Savior, and that bothered me. So I just asked him. They took him back to a room, and we got to be with him for like 30 minutes back there before they really pumped him full of sedatives. And I said, hey, buddy, I was like, do you know who Jesus is? He's like, yeah. He died for my sins. And after that, the rest of the day, I really didn't have care in the world. I knew God loved Jonathan more than I did. I know he loved me. I knew whatever the outcome was, that we'd be okay. But, so we had to sit there, I guess it was like 6 hours just waiting. We had friends and family that showed up. Really family from church. And they sat with us and was just there to keep us company, prayed with us. It was so much different. See, 10 years ago, or 14 years ago when Jen was going through the stuff with Chloe, I had a lot of bitterness and kind of hate and just probably envy from things that's happened to me. So I was in a dark place. I didn't have anybody. It was just me and Jen and my parents and her parents, her sister. But we didn't have the church family that we have now. See, 14 years ago, the church was only maybe 18 people. Didn't really have a pastor. We had an interim pastor. There was nobody that you could really relate to. But we stuck it out. And each time something's happened, our faith has grown. So, I don't know, have you showed the tumor yet? So the tumor's there on the right. It's that cloudy white area. And that kind of black mess there. But over here is where they removed. So they removed a fistful of his brain. It's amazing. God planned it out for it to happen just the way it happened. He put Dr. Matt at Duke Hospital for such a time for Jonathan to walk through that door and him take care of the surgery. Matt told us when we got there, he said, look, I'm going to treat you like Jonathan is my son. You guys are my family. And I'm telling you what, he did. Most surgeons, after sitting for 6 hours, I don't know that they would come into a room and discuss what happened through the surgery with them, with the family, like he did. He was great. Brian and Allison were there with us. Mike was there. My parents were there. Wilbur and Patsy were there. He took us all back in the room and told us all what happened, that he got everything, that he was 100% sure that he got it all. Do doubts creep in my mind sometimes? Yeah. Sometimes I think about it. What if it comes back? And then I remind myself, that's just a lie you're telling yourself. God's touched Jonathan. We found out at our last MRI that he is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And we asked, we said, hey, what's Dr. Matt up to? And our oncologist told us, he said, hey, about 6 months ago, he's gone back home to Boston. It's just amazing what God will do. We might not see it. We might not know his plans or how he's going to work in the situation, but God is working behind the scenes. You might not feel it. Just like that family that was praying for me at Duck Donut, just like him having Dr. Matt there, just like the paramedics that transported us down. He works out all the details. You just have to trust and rely on him. So getting to my message. I've struggled the last 2 years. Not really so much as, I don't know, I'm not a bad person. I'm not a good person. None of us are good. But I have things in my life that I need to work on. There's things that I was running from. One of the things is speaking. I've seen what the world can do. I've seen how people treat pastors and preachers and their family. I haven't really wanted that for mine. Just being honest with you guys. So 2 years ago, I was in a bad place. I was feeling down on myself, had a lot of anxiety. I know I was trying to get closer to God. And the closer I got to Him, the more I realized, hey, I got other things wrong with me. So Brandon had asked me in October last year, hey, you want to come help me in youth? You can come run sound up there for us, maybe sit in on small groups or whatever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's fine. I'll come help. I didn't really want to. So it's like I got tricked into it. I don't know. No, but the more I got involved, the more I wanted to help. That's just how I am. Well, we went to Accelerant back in February with the kids. And the speakers there, they were awesome. And this one was speaking about how when Israel crossed the Jordan, that God cut the flow of the river, not just some little stream. The Jordan is huge. And during the time when they crossed, it was like flood season, kind of like the rains we got last night, a lot of rain. So He cut the flow on both sides as the ark passed through with His presence. And they stopped until everything that Israel had got onto the other side. So they walked across on dry ground. Well, Joshua told each tribe to get one person from each tribe, go grab a stone, take that stone, bring it back across, stack them up. It's going to be a sign to this generation that I'm still God. I'm still working miracles. See, that generation didn't come out of Egypt. They had to wander. That Israel wandered for 40 years until a new generation came because of how stubborn they were. Kind of like me. I was being stubborn. Well, He set that reminder up for them so they can look back and see where God brought them from and the miracles that He did for them. So they had an altar call, and I felt like, God wants me to do more. So I told Brandon, I said, look, man, I was like, you wanted me to come and do this, and you said, hey, maybe you want to do a message one day. I was like, I'm all in. Whatever you need, I'll do it. So we got back. It wasn't probably 2 weeks later. He's like, hey, Ryan, you're on schedule. It was probably like the second week of March because it was probably prayer night and then you're on. So I was talking to Mike about it. He said, so when you going to come and when you going to preach again up here? And we had talked back in September or something. And I had told him, I said, look, it's like, I want to speak, but I'm going to have to be pressured into it. And so he came to me again, and he said, hey, when do you want to preach again? I was like, let's make it Father's Day. They gave me March, April, May. I was like, I got plenty of time, Come up with a good message, work on it. And God kept working on me. He's like, you're going to share your story. I was like, all right. I was like, all right, I can share my story, but what am I going to preach on, God? I was like, I just don't know. Well, during those 3 months, He really worked on me. He wanted me to be more involved, so I got involved. I told Sarah, I was like, hey, look, I'll do security over at Children's Church. I'm like, that's involved. That's good. And it's like, that's not enough. So one Sunday, I'm on a group chat with them or whatever. Sarah sends out a thing, hey, Miss Stephanie's going to be out. Who can do it? And it's like crickets. Nobody replied. I called Sarah. I was like, look, I'll do it. I was like, can't be that hard. It's just 4 to 6 year olds. I was like, if I can't share with them, I can't share with anybody. So I was already coming to church early. So I went, I got the packet. I looked it over. I was like, I can do this. So I sat down with the kids. I told them the story. It was fine. I survived. But then God's like, look, you got to do more. I was like, man, how much more do I need to do? So he kept working on me. And I called Brandon. I said, look, man, I said, how about you and Mike help me on Mother's Day? We'll get a group of guys and we'll just do all dads over in Children's Church for Mother's Day. And the first words was like, you better check with Caitlin and Sarah first. They might not want you over there. So we did it. We had a couple guys that helped, a handful of us. We went over. We managed through 2 services. We didn't lose any kids. Nobody got hurt, except for maybe Jake's daughter. She did cartwheels or something in the classroom with me and fell and got hurt. But, she was fine. So that brings me, so how do we become Dad Rocks? Well, first point is we got to be leaders. We got to seek Jesus in everything we do. Matthew 7:24 through 27 says, therefore, anyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rains came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fail because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears the words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew, beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. So we got to build our houses on Jesus. There's nothing else, only Him. Because if not, our houses are going to get divided. They're going to get destroyed. Proverbs 22:6 says, start children off in the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. We got to teach our kids about God's word. I should have done a better job of this, and I wouldn't have worried so much about John's salvation. For the fact is, 2 months after he got over his ordeal, he got baptized on August 13th. You got that picture? It's one of the best days of my life. So I've got 2 down, 1 to go. Because that was my biggest fear. Is that my kids would not grow up to love God, to chase wholeheartedly after Jesus because of my failures as a dad. I just can't understand why, as dads, we're more comfortable to teach them other things besides about Jesus. We're so quick to teach them how to play baseball, golf, football, video games, instead of sitting down and reading the Word with them. I'm just glad I grew up in a Christian household where my dad always had his Bible by his chair. I always saw him reading, and he would pray. And my mom was the same way. I'm thankful for that. But we got to start making disciples out of our children. We got to teach them about Jesus, that they might not stray. The second point is we got to be holy. There was things in my life I didn't feel. I knew I was saved. I knew Jesus was Lord of my life, but I was struggling. I wasn't being obedient, is what it comes down to. 1 Peter 1, 13 through 16 says, "Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. But just as he called you to be holy, just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy because I am holy." We got to strive to be like Jesus. That's the only way we can get holiness. It's a process. It's not something that just you're going to do on your own. It's not anything that you can fix. As men, we tend to try to fix things. When it comes to life and sin and things he wants to get rid of, we can't fix it. There's nothing that we can do. The only thing we can do is go to the one who can, and that's Jesus, and lay it at his feet. It's okay to fail. We aren't perfect. The thing is you got to get back up, and you got to keep following Jesus with all your strength. Admit when you're wrong, asking for forgiveness, and we've got to teach our kids about mercy and grace. Sometimes Jonathan gets in trouble and I yell at him, he gets upset. The fact is, I should have a little bit more grace and mercy. He's still got to do right. But sometimes I react differently than I should. And the other part is we got to forgive ourselves. As dads, father figures, men, I'm sure women do the same thing. It's hard to forgive ourselves the things that we've done. But when we come to Christ and he's the Lord of our life, all we got to do is give it over to him. And that's all God will see. Romans 5:8 says, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this, while we are still sinners, Christ died for us. Remember, there is none that are good and holy except for Jesus." My third point is we got to commune with God. We got to have communion with him. He longs for it. It's what we were created for. He wants to have conversations with us, not just in the times we need him. And that's another thing I struggled with. I let God have control in the big problems. Through Chloe, through having Haven, and then Jonathan's. Just quick to go to him in the bad times, in the big things. But even in the small things, he's here for us to help us. But he wants to have that communication with us. It's not a one-way, "Hey God, Lord, I'm here again, bless me, keep me safe, keep my family safe," and done. He wants more. He wants you to talk to him. So we got to be able to hear his voice. We got to know what his voice sounds like. So to do that, you got to stay in his word. John 10:27 says, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." Only way to know his voice is to read his word. That's how you can tell the difference between the voice in your head telling you you're not good enough, or the one that will tell you, "Hey, pick up this stranger on the road. Take them where they need to go." We need to worship and pray in front of our kids. We need to teach them how to do it. Can't rely on children's church to do it. It needs to start at home. And it starts with dads as leaders and head of the household. 1 Peter 2:9-10 says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who calls you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy." See, he chose us. We didn't fall into it. We didn't choose him. The thing is, he comes to us, stands at the door, and knocks. We have to be obedient and say, "God, come on in." So in closing, I'd like to take a look at these rocks. I got these at Father's Day when they were in preschool. They're kind of pretty to look at. They're important to me because my kids made them. Show me how much love they have for me. So these edges are rough, are smooth. They've been worn down. And they put these colors on them. And I kind of like it. They've been sitting on my desk at work. So that's where the idea of Dead Rocks, as the title of my message, came from. I was sitting there praying one morning, and I saw them. It's kind of like God looking down at us. We're not a finished work, but when he looks at us, he sees the bright colors of his Son, the blood that's been washed over our lives, where he's been working on us and the edges have been smoothed down. Because if you look at this other rock, it's like most men. They won't admit it. They're broken. They got rough edges, maybe a little bit dirty. But when we come to know God and come to realize that Jesus is Lord of our lives, he washes us with his blood. He smooths away all the cracks and all the rough edges, the ones that we allow him to smooth out. Because that's the thing. He can be Lord of your life. You can still hold back stuff, and some of them edges will stay sharp or cracked. Until you let him have it all, you're still going to be cracked, and broken, and rough. So my question for you today is, which rock are you? Are you the one that's broken? Rough edges, maybe a little bit dirty. Maybe God hasn't come into your life. Maybe he hasn't washed away the dirt. Maybe you still need Jesus. If that's you, I'd like to give you the opportunity to just meet us at the altar. It's as simple as just getting up, taking one step, another step, until you reach the front. We'll meet you here. We'll pray with you. All it takes is just confessing that you're a sinner and that Jesus, you want him to come into your life. Or maybe you're a little bit better. Jesus already covered you. But you still got cracks, brokenness, things that you haven't totally given to God. If that's you, all it takes is just coming to the altar. You can do it from your seat. But I'm going to tell you, you can do it from your seat and not totally release it to God. Something about that one step, getting down at the altar and turning it over to Him, that will change your life. So the altar's open. We'll have the prayer team come down. If there's anybody that wants to make that choice, please come see Mike, come see me, one of the prayer team. We'll pray with you. Either way, it's between us and God. So at this time, I'd like for all the dads, spiritual dads, wannabe dads, or if you're just a man, you want to come down and maybe pray with us. But I'd like for us all to come down. I want our families to gather around us because it's hard being a dad. It's hard being a dad that follows Christ. So I think it's important that we come down, we pray for them, and have your family pray for them. So this time, if y'all would just come meet us here at the altar.